Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. My dad will join us in just a couple of minutes here, but I thought we'd start off the show with, we talked about this before, Aaron Rodgers. He's taken time away from the Packers to think about his future, whether he wants to stay in the NFL, leave the NFL, potentially move on from the Packers and go to a different team. And the one team that we talked about, I believe maybe this past week, was the Jets have moved into the favorites outside of obviously the Green Bay Packers and returning to the Packers. The Jets being the favorites if he leaves the Packers and he gets traded away. And that was in large part due to the fact that Nathaniel Hackett, former offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers and who was the former head coach of the Denver Broncos this past season, didn't even finish out the year. He was signed by the Jets as the OC. They got rid of Mr. LaFleur, who I believe, I think LaFleur actually got a job recently. I'm not too sure off the top of my head, but I forget what team he got signed to. However, we talked about how, what team would fit Aaron Rodgers the best, and what is the best fit for one Aaron Rodgers, and I felt like it was the Green Bay Packers just because, he's held that team, hostage for, now we're talking about 2-3 years at this point now, so why not hold him again for another year? You already signed a 3-year, $150 million extension, why not stay for longer, but the Jets is an interesting proposition because the Denver Broncos made the same type of move, signing Nathaniel Hackett as their head coach, in terms of simply hoping that Aaron Rodgers is like, Green Bay, they have no talent around me. At least the Denver Broncos have some talent. Let me move on there, my former OC that I seem to have liked and had a good relationship with, he's the head coach of the Broncos. Let me move over there. And it just didn't turn out to be the case. Nathaniel Hackett, I guess, my guess would be sort of told the ownership of the Denver Broncos, hey, I could bring over Aaron Rodgers, and he'll be our starting quarterback. That fell through, and they ended up with Russell Wilson, who looked very, very washed this season. It's just, he also got sacked, I believe, the most in not NFL history, but the most this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out this season if we see Russell Wilson rebound, although I've said constantly on this show how I feel like that's not a blip. It's more so going to be a trend for Russell Wilson heading forward. So I want to talk about this Jets situation because I think it is very, very interesting because, once again, Aaron Rodgers has a huge, huge contract that the Packers or his next team has to deal with. He signed a 3-year, $150 million extension with the Green Bay Packers, which is a huge cap hit. Instead of building talent around him, he sort of stripped the potential wealth from the Packers that they could have spread amongst getting playmakers, but instead they left with Alan Lazard, who already basically hinted that this is his last year with the Green Bay Packers. They had to draft a couple wide receivers that Aaron Rodgers didn't even want to gain rapport with in the offseason, so they had to do it in the middle of the season, and we saw how that worked. Christian Watson very, very early on in the year with a drop, and Aaron Rodgers didn't trust him until about week 11, week 12, and that's when we saw it. He took off. Romeo Doubs, it's been the same thing there. It just never really got any rapport with. He was asked, if he ever went to a dinner with Aaron Rodgers outside of, playing the game with him, and Romeo Doubs said, no, I never got invited to a dinner with Rodgers or hung out with him outside of the facility, which is not surprising. It's very interesting how Aaron Rodgers does that. He keeps a very, very small circle, but outside of that, he sort of shuns everyone away and doesn't want to gain rapport with them. And that's one of the reasons why I think the Jets is not a great opportunity, because they have a lot of young talent. You have a Breece Hall, you have an Elijah Moore, you have a Garrett Wilson. These young players who need to develop, and you have the potential of having a phenomenal quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, they may be in Super Bowl contention there. I believe they're definitely in playoff contention. It's just a matter of fact, will they be in the Super Bowl conversation? Usually Aaron Rodgers, surrounded by talent, is in the Super Bowl conversation just because he is a 3-time MVP. He was just back-to-back MVP, although he didn't play like it this season. So it's interesting. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be owed $60 million fully guaranteed dollars in the next 2 years, which is interesting. This season, he would be, I believe it's a $15 million cap hit for 2023. And also, I believe it is going to be, let's say, $150 million contract extension last year, has a fully guaranteed $60 million salary that must be paid off by any team he plays for in 2023. So March 15th is the option that could be exercised at any time between March 15th and the start of the regular season. So it would be interesting what the Packers decide here, but it's $15.8 million cap hit for 2023 and then $32.5 million in 2024 for the Jets if they decide to trade and get Aaron Rodgers. And not only would it be, just trading for Aaron Rodgers, but it would be 1 or 2 first-round picks. It could be even a player or two, maybe send Zach Wilson over to the Packers, although I think it'll be smart for the Packers to go with Jordan Love, and we'll see what they do this season and moving forward, because they have to figure out what they're going to do with Jordan Love. Pay him, release him, get rid of him, something. But when he first played against the Chiefs a couple seasons ago, he didn't look great, but I believe he still threw for over 300 yards, which is still impressive. Your first start against the Chiefs, who were a very formidable team. He throw for 300 yards, and you kept that game extremely close. Just think about it. If Jordan Love beat Patrick Mahomes, I think the Packers may have moved off Aaron Rodgers this season, because I think you said, oh, that's a great achievement. You were able to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. Although, this season he came in, I think they were down by a lot. Again, I'm forgetting which team, but he came into the season, and I think he threw a couple touchdowns there, and he actually looked really, really good. And the reports coming out of, training camp and out of practice were he looks much better than he did when he first came into the league. So my guess would be, they're going to go with Jordan Love, and it's going to be very interesting of a situation on how they're going to move forward, because the Jets are a very, very good option, but I just think, you're going to need a quarterback that is there for the players, and Aaron Rodgers just hasn't been that way, really, when he was with the Packers, and he begs the Packers ownership and the front office to be like, please get me some talent. And they drafted a 6'5" guy who runs 4.3, and it took you until week 11 or 12 to really click with him, because you decided, let me just go on ayahuasca trips and let me do all these things in the offseason and not focus on football to find yourself. Which, I mean, yeah, you could find yourself. It's just that you have responsibilities, and that's with your team that you've been holding hostage for the past 3 years. So we're going to see what Aaron Rodgers does. I still think that, the Green Bay Packers are the best option, because you still have a decent amount of talent. The Packers still have a pretty good defense. At one point, they were ranked number 1 in passing defense this past season, about midway through the year. You have 2 very, very good running backs. Let's not forget that. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon were essentially how you won. You went on, I believe, that 4-game winning streak. It was your running game and your defense that was the main responsibility, the main cause of that 4-game winning streak. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers throwing the football. It was the running game. I brought up a stat on the show when we talked about it right before the Lions game at the very, very end of the regular season, which was, it was the running game and defense that was really the cause of the 4-game winning streak. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers, having a glimpse of that back-to-back MVP season. So it's just quite interesting how Aaron Rodgers is going to go through this. But the Jets do have some options. You have Jimmy G, who was caught smiling on the sidelines at the beginning of the third quarter when the 49ers were down, I believe, 21-7 at the time. You also have Derek Carr, who for some reason the Raiders have not granted him the right to look for a potential trade suitor, which is a little bit interesting how, you're going to need to pay him sooner rather than later, or you have to get rid of him. You have to pay him his guaranteed money, which is $40 million by, I believe, February 15th, or you got to get rid of him. So the fact that you're not allowing Derek Carr to look for a potential trade partner, that's interesting there, but you have him, you have Jimmy G, and then you have Aaron Rodgers. Those are the 3 main quarterbacks. You still also have Ryan Tannehill, who I believe is on, I believe this past year he was on the last year of his contract. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is an average to below average quarterback. I think Derek Carr, Jimmy G, and Aaron Rodgers are obviously above Ryan Tannehill. You could argue Jimmy G, but I've argued Jimmy G constantly, and we're actually going to be talking about Jimmy G later on in the show, but I just find it very, very interesting what the Packers do, because the report is they actually prefer to move off Aaron Rodgers. So I think they're finally using their brains here and thinking like, you know what? He costs too much money. We got to figure out what to do with him here. So it's going to be interesting what they do moving forward. But if I had to say, once again, Aaron Rodgers' best situation, besides retirement, he's still owed, exorbitant amount of money, I would say stick with the Packers, because I forgot to mention in in the last topic where we talked about Aaron Rodgers, which was I said Jimmy G was a great fit. I mean, I think Derek Carr is a very, very, comparable pick as well. But the Jets also realize you have a lot of people that are, coming up to free agency. You have Mike White, you have Quincy Williams, you have a couple other offensive linemen that you need to sort out. Your kicker on Greg Zuerlein, I don't need to worry about him. You have James Robinson. You brought him in after Breece Hall got hurt. So you have a couple of notable players, LaMarcus Joyner and Quan Alexander on defense that were pretty good for you. It's just a matter of if you want to bring them back. They don't cost, a tremendous amount of money, but you also have a few other players that you may need to re-sign or get rid of and then hold the dead cap penalty. But the Jets do have, I believe they're actually negative in cap space at the start of this offseason. So it's going to be interesting how they move pieces around. Like Carl Lawson, they might need to get rid of him. Corey Davis, Jordan Whitehead, CJ Mosley. He has almost a $15 million dead cap penalty, which that's going to be something. Braxton Berrios, who was fighting for a contract this past offseason, they're going to need to decide to do with him. And oh yeah, the quarterback, Zach Wilson, who has been an absolute disgrace for them. This past season, they benched him twice. And then, Saleh said, we're not going to give up on Zach Wilson. This is not the last time you've seen him. That's just, I don't believe that Robert Saleh actually believes in that, because he goes on to say that they're going to be actively searching for a veteran quarterback. In that case, you wouldn't say that Zach Wilson, this is not the last we've seen of Zach Wilson. So I think Zach Wilson should be gone, but then you have, you might want to bring Mike White back in, who's a very, very good backup. But we saw, when he was starting, he goes out and wins one or two games, but in those other games he plays, he does not look great. So we're going to need to see what happens there. But we're going to take a 30-second break, but we have a big show planned. We talk about we start with the association, Celtics and Lakers, and what horrible officiating was happening over this past weekend. But we will be back in just 30 seconds.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
Podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm now joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our first topic. We're talking about the association. We're talking about, I believe, Saturday night's game, Celtics and Lakers, and there was a big controversy at the end of that game. LeBron seemed to get fouled, and we actually have that footage here. I believe we have it already set up. Here we go. LeBron driving in very late in the game. Game tied at 105 apiece. Heading overtime, Jason Tatum appears to slap him on the left forearm, which causes him to miss the layup there. And I mean, that's clearly obvious. This is an obvious missed call here. And then that, once again, clock hits 0. No fouls called. And then you have LeBron after this, complain and cry, on the verge of tears out here. I believe we have that. Here we go. He jumps up, starts complaining, crying, slamming his hands down, really complaining. Not a great look for one that's about to be considered the greatest NBA player of all time. That should be a technical foul. I don't care who you are. You're LeBron James, you could be Kobe Bryant, you could be Steph Curry. That's a technical foul in my book, and based on whatever it is. So, based on what you see, did they get the call right? And what is your reaction to the ultimate downfall of the Lakers in overtime?
I don't think they got the call right. I mean,
you're saying that's not a foul?
No, I'd say they didn't get the call right.
Well, they didn't call it. That's what I'm saying.
I'm sorry. They should have called a foul.
Okay.
Yeah. And they didn't, so. It was tied. I mean, it wasn't like it was cataclysmic. I mean, he probably would have made one or two of the free throws, right? And there was no time left. So I can see why he was upset, you know. And why they lost in overtime, Jaylen Brown. I mean, the game before, Jaylen Brown was the GOAT in that, and he redeemed himself in this game. He was lights out in the overtime.
It's interesting because while it should have been a foul call, just like we were talking about you don't know about this because I didn't brief you on this, but the Bengals game, I went back this morning and I was able to go through social media and I found a lot of interesting little tidbits that I'm going to show you when we talk about our Bengals topic. But you just got to keep playing. And then in overtime, the Lakers seemed to just be so distraught over the non-call. They didn't play very well. I mean, LeBron James, I believe he had 36 points maybe at the end of the fourth quarter. He ended with, I think, 41. So he only scored 5 points in the 5-minute overtime period. He did shoot 50% from three, which is very, very surprising. He's not a tremendous three-point shooter. I believe he's shooting just above 30%. I believe he's 145th out of 152 qualified three-point shooters. So that's interesting. But the Lakers just didn't play at all in overtime. Horrible clock management at the end of the game. They took up, I think, 10 seconds to get, beyond the half-court line, and then, just a casual, nonchalant three-point from Anthony Davis. They didn't really care at the end of the game. And then you had Patrick Beverley come over in the break to one of probably the funniest technical fouls. He brought a camera over to one of the refs and pointed to him saying, like, oh, that's a foul. I thought that was very, very creative, and I believe he'll get a big fine, soon enough. He hasn't got a fine right now, but I think that was very, very creative and actually pretty funny. I wish I had the clip here,
he's
but I don't.
Somebody that can get himself in trouble.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, his main role now is not to be so much of a super defender, but he just pisses people off. That's what he's been for the past few years. He just bothers opponents. He hasn't been a great player. I mean, in this game, he actually didn't have that bad of a game. He scored 15 points, shot 4-7 from three, 5 of 10 from the field, but he averages only, 6 points a game. He's shooting not even 40%. So he's not a great player for any means, but, he's better than some of the players the Lakers have. Like, they recently got Rui Hachimura, who I think who could be a pretty good pickup. I mean, he was an all-rookie a couple years ago. He's averaging 9 points this season with the Lakers. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Rui Hachimura. But the Lakers just didn't come to play. And the Celtics, Jaylen Brown, he absolutely exploded. As soon as the overtime period started, he shot a three, drove, I think got fouled a couple times. I believe made an and-one. He hit free throws at the end of the game. You had Malcolm Brogdon, who actually, I believe, tied up the game at the very, very end, which, I mean, he had a pretty good game as well. 26 points. 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He covered the entire stat sheet with 2 steals and 1 block. Only 2 turnovers. You had Jason Tatum, though, again, poor shooting night. This is what I was talking about. I believe we talked about it on Friday. Jason Tatum, 32% from the field, 30% from three. Thank God he made 11 to 12 free throws here. He ended with 30 points and 11 rebounds, along with 4 assists, but This was Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown had a pretty good game. Shot over 50%. His three-point could be worked on, 2 of 9. But like I said, Jason Tatum is not a superstar. He's a very, very good player. He's so inconsistent. I can't classify him as a superstar. But, some people stepped up in this game for the Celtics. Peyton Pritchard didn't really do much, played 5 minutes. Sam Hauser, 5 minutes. Luke Comet, 16 minutes, 2 points. Not something you really want to see. Not great production. But he did make his 2 free throws. The only points he scored were free throws. So, it was a horrible call. They obviously did not get the no call right. Even the officiating group came out after the game and said, oh, yeah, we missed that call. But it's up to, I
don't know why they missed it, actually. It was pretty obvious.
Yeah, he was staring right at it. That's pretty funny.
I would say the Lakers, that's one play in the game. I don't know if you bring the game down to one play. I guess you can make, LeBron thought it was that. That's why he got so upset. But if you look at the stats, I mean the Celtics played better team ball than the Lakers did. LeBron had 41. The next closest player was 16 points from Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
And the Celtics had 30 from Tatum, 37 from Brown, and 26 from Brogdon. So, they and 14 points from Derek White. So, they had better balance in the scoring.
And also, 3-point shooting from the Lakers was obviously not on their side. They shot below 30% from three. They're not a very good shooting team. They also don't play a lot of defense.
They had a lot of assists, but they didn't turn that into a win.
Yeah.
They had 30 assists. The Celtics only had 18.
The Celtics also out-rebounded them by 10. So, the Lakers don't have a lot of great playmakers.
I thought the rebounds were 47
I'm sorry.
for the Lakers and 46 for the Celtics, so they beat them by one on that.
I don't even know what I saw. Oh, I was looking at defensive rebounds to total rebounds.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, even then, Celtics had more defensive rebounds, but it's just let's see. They had the same amount of turnovers, which was surprising.
Yeah. And fouls were about the same.
Fouls were about the same. It's just, in overtime when it mattered, the Lakers didn't have the mental toughness to, get past an obviously blown potential game-winning free throw
They had
opportunity.
no blocks, and the Celtics had 9.
That's
a telling statistic as well.
That's pretty ridiculous because you have a couple really good playmakers and defenders. I mean, Anthony Davis. I mean, he thinks he could he thinks he's a shooting big man. He's not really, but when he gets down low, that's where he gets hurt, and he's trying to come back from an injury right now. He's been playing pretty. I mean, 16 points, 10 rebounds. I think this is your second or third game back from an injury that's held you out for, I believe, over 20 games. I mean, it's definitely impressive. Free throws, not bad. I mean, LeBron did miss a free throw, and he's averaging, I think, just below 80% free throw shooting. So, there was definitely a chance to put the Celtics away at the very, very end of the game. Obvious missed call. LeBron should have got a technical foul on that for complaining that badly, but it's LeBron James. And even before that, literally right before the hit, LeBron actually took 3 steps. He took one gather step, which you're allowed to, but then after that, he took 3 steps after that. Yeah. So
I think they probably didn't give him the technical because they knew that the Celtics would have won it with a technical foul shot. They probably sensed, well, maybe we missed that call.
Maybe.
So that's probably why they didn't give him the technical.
That could definitely be it, but I think, they never call traveling anyway. Traveling is more so just for, every other league besides the NBA, because I almost never hear a traveling call. So it's just quite interesting to see, how this game turned out. And the Celtics were the more mentally tough team. They performed better. Jaylen Brown had a tremendous overtime and fourth quarter. So it's going to be interesting. I believe the Celtics actually play tonight. I believe they play the Brooklyn Nets.
Is that tonight?
I believe so, yeah. So I guess just off the no, I'm sorry, February 1st. It's what's it, Wednesday. So they do not play tonight. Let's see if I'm curious if the Lakers. I doubt the Lakers play them. They do play. The Lakers play the Nets. That's who it is. I'm not sure the points spread, but who cares? Just do a quick pick. Lakers at Nets tonight, 7:30. Who you picking? LeBron's going for the record. He's about 120-ish points away from the record. Mm. So honestly, the refs kind of helped him in this case. They allowed him to.
Well, I hate Kyrie Irving, so I'm going to pick the Lakers. But the way Kyrie Irving's been playing lately, I would say the Nets have a very good chance, even without Kevin Durant.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually pick the Nets. Like you said, I think Kyrie Irving's just playing, lights out here. Seth Curry could shoot the hell out of the ball, similar to his brother, but no, I don't think anywhere near it, but similar. So I'll pick the Nets in this game. But let's move on to our next topic. We'll talk about the Eagles and 49ers. The Eagles were able to rout the hospital roster of the 49ers and able to beat them 31-7. Jalen Hurts did not have a particularly great game. I believe he went 15-25 for 121 passing yards. They didn't run. Jalen Hurts didn't run the ball very well, but it was in large part their defense that was in large part why they were able to just absolutely shut down the 49ers. Brock Purdy got injured very, very early in the game. Ended up, the report came out today. MRI showed a tear in his UCL, which is around the elbow. That's why he was out. So that would be, I think I read a 6-month recovery period.
Wow.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the offseason when it comes to the 49ers. But what was your reaction to the 49ers' brutal loss against the Eagles on Sunday?
Disappointment and frustration.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, those injuries and the penalties. And Jalen Hurts didn't play well, so I think he was lucky, in fact, that that Purdy got hurt, because Josh Johnson was a disaster when he got in there. Right, he fumbled the ball, and that led to a score, and then he wound up getting hurt and had to take him out. Purdy had to come back, and he couldn't throw the ball, So I think that what happened was the defense kept the 49ers in the game for a while. But because the offense couldn't stay on the field for any length of time, the defense just got tired. And the Eagles were able to run it down their throats. I would say if Jalen Hurts has this kind of game in the Super Bowl, the Eagles won't win.
I could agree with you with that one. Yeah, absolutely. I wonder how the Cowboys feel after seeing how badly, the 49ers were able to play in this.
Well, Purdy was good in that game, reasonably good, and wasn't great.
It wasn't that good though.
But the Eagles' defense is better than the Cowboys' defense.
Yeah, absolutely. They have the third most sacks in NFL history, including the playoffs, behind the 84 and 85 Bears, who had over 80 each time. They have 78 right now for the Eagles. They won by 24 points, which is an absolute shutdown. Jalen Hurts did not play very well in this game, which was very, very surprising.
Yards.
Yeah,
and some of his throws were like nowhere near the receiver.
Yeah,
he had Brown wide open down the sideline there, missed him by a mile.
Yeah, so
that would have been a touchdown easy.
Probably.
Yeah. And he threw it way over the guy's head there on one of the short passes. He did not have a good game passing it.
Yeah. Hassan Reddick had a great game. A lot of pressures. He got that the strip sack on Brock Purdy, which was huge. He was actually the highest rated player in this game, and Hargrave was right behind him, 91.8 to 91.1. The entire defense of the Eagles actually was absolutely just dominant in this entire game, especially on the pass rush. I'm taking a look at it right here. Reddick had 2 sacks, 3 hurries, which that's pretty big when you have a guy named Josh Johnson, or an injured Brock Purdy with 1 arm. And then you also had CMC, who came in, I think, for 1 or 2 throws, which was pretty interesting. But we're going to talk about it later. Jimmy G had a funny comment. He was also seen smiling on the sidelines, and we actually are going to talk about that as our last topic today. So it's going to be interesting. But the game plan was, run through CMC, which actually is, in large part has been their offense most of the year.
You know what? If Purdy hadn't gotten hurt, sticking with that could have been a secret to them winning the game, because it was reasonably effective. But after Purdy got hurt, they knew they were just going to be running it, so they just teed off on that.
Right.
They didn't worry about the pass much. So he could have done the play action pass, because McCaffrey did get some decent runs.
Yeah.
He had that run for a touchdown, which was fantastic.
It was a beautiful run. He broke 3 or 4 tackles to get that. He also hurtled over somebody to get that touchdown. So it was very, very impressive. McCaffrey came in there for 1 snap. They also had Kyle Juszczyk there, their fullback. It seemed like he was reading over the playbook, because he might have came in to throw a couple passes. He never did, but it was interesting to see that. But you know what? Here's the thing. Even with, if Brock Purdy was healthy, I still think I picked the Eagles to win, but the way Brock Purdy came out there, he went 2 of 2 for a few yards there, but he just, the offensive line of the 49ers was seemingly crumbling.
Yeah, well, I think it would have been a lot closer game if the quarterbacks hadn't gotten hurt.
I think it would have been closer, but I still think the Eagles would have just, taken care of business, because Kenneth Gainwell, he had a couple explosive runs. I mean,
once they got up 21-7, I thought the game was pretty much over.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think as soon as Brock Purdy went down, a lot of people thought the game was over. And then, funnily enough, I don't think, Josh Johnson didn't play poorly. He just didn't really do that much.
Well, he fumbled that.
He had 1 fumble, but then also Brock Purdy had a fumble. So, I mean...
Well, but Brock Purdy's fumble was forced. Josh Johnson just wasn't looking at the ball when it was snapped. He let it go right through his hands, and then he couldn't jump on it.
Yeah, he didn't really try to.
That hurt. That was when they scored that touchdown after that. That was...
Well, I still think even after Brock Purdy's fumble, they still scored a touchdown. So...
Yeah, the turnovers killed the 49ers, and the injuries killed them, and the penalties on the defense killed them too.
The 49ers had 11 penalties for 81 yards in this game. So yeah, penalties killed it. But, funnily enough, the Eagles only sacked the 49ers 3 times, and they didn't lose many yards on those sacks. Only lost 14 yards due to the sacks, but they just could not move whatsoever.
That's a lot,
offense.
because after a while, the 49ers weren't passing the ball. They were just running it.
Yeah. But even then, Philadelphia tried to run it much more. They ran it 44 times for 148 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns, which is crazy. the 49ers only had 164 yards. And it seemed like it didn't even seem like they got that much. I mean, as soon as Brock Purdy went down and then you heard Josh Johnson got hurt, it just seemed like the game was over. No one wanted to play. And then you had Trent Williams, suplex a guy on the ground. He got ejected from that game. And then actually one of the Eagles players threw a punch. I believe he was the guy who got, absolutely shredded to the ground. He got ejected as well. So we'll see what his status is for the Super Bowl. He may get suspended for that. But if the Eagles play like this in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, I would feel very, very confident the Chiefs, walloping this team, because Jalen Hurts can't have a 15 completion, 25 attempt, 121 yard game with no touchdowns.
This is also the Chiefs' third time there in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And the Eagles, do they have anybody that's played in the Super Bowl? Very few players, I would say.
I don't think any of them have.
The coach has never been to the Super Bowl, so I think that the experience factor there is something to look at too.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going through here quickly. I don't think a single player has been to the Super Bowl, at least on the offense. But I don't know. Patrick Mahomes, we're going to talk about this on Friday when we make our Super Bowl. Well, actually, we don't even need to. We could wait till next Friday because we have Pro Bowl week. So we'll figure something out. But Patrick Mahomes does not play very well in Super Bowls. He just doesn't live up to it. I'm not saying the lights get too bright. It's just they're a little bit blinding. He will not have or hasn't had a performance like he did last week. The one against the Patriots,
his offensive line was a sieve. He was under pressure the whole time.
You talking about the Bucs game?
I'm sorry, the Bucs, right? Yeah. The Bucs game. He was under pressure almost constantly. So his offensive line was poor. He got a much better offensive line now.
But even in the 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl, he had a couple interceptions, a couple bad interceptions.
They won that game.
Yeah, it's because Jimmy G overthrew Emmanuel Sanders by 4 yards. That would have put the game away. They were up, I think, 10. That would have put them up by 17. So we're gonna see. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is gonna choke the Super Bowl here. We'll make our picks eventually, but it's just interesting how that game turned out. The 49ers did not look great. They didn't look good at all, actually. The Eagles, I'm a little bit nervous about the Eagles because they haven't looked like the Eagles except against the Giants, who, they were. Let's be real. They're not a great team. They have a lot of problems. So I think that game
they'll be the underdog. And the point spread.
Eagles are not underdogs.
They are. What's the point spread right now?
-1.5. Eagles. Chiefs are underdogs.
Huh. I'm not sure I believe that. No.
I mean, just take a look at the team comp. Mahomes is better than Jalen Hurts, and then Travis Kelce's better than Goddard. Who beats who?
Yeah, and then the wide receivers, they have A.J. Brown on the Eagles, but
A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith.
Yeah, but the
Chiefs,
the Chiefs have some decent wide receivers too.
Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah.
Who beats Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown? Not a single one of them. Let's be real. Offensive line, Eagles got it. Defensive line, Reddick, Chris Jones. Chris Jones. We're going to talk about it in our next topic after the break, but Chris Jones, I think, was the MVP of that game. Let's keep it 100 real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then secondary Eagles.
MVP.
And then the Eagles secondary outplays the Chiefs secondary, who has a bunch of rookies. So we're talking about team comp. I'm taking the Eagles team comp over the Chiefs, but I'm not going to make my pick yet. But we are going to take a break right now. But still to come, we're going to discuss last night's thrilling game at what was now formerly called Burrowhead. And we also asked the question, could Jimmy Garoppolo have beaten the Eagles if he was active and healthy enough to play? That and more coming up right after this.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you want. Record alone or with friends or co-hosts anywhere in the world. You can add background music and transitions, and your listeners can send you voice messages that you can incorporate right into your next episode. If you want to produce your show using another app, you can upload your own audio directly from web or mobile. and still take advantage of Anchor's totally free podcast hosting. Once your podcast is ready to publish, Anchor can automatically distribute it to every major podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so your listeners can hear your show wherever they want. And on the web, you can see detailed analytics about how people are listening. Plus, you'll get a great-looking profile page where anyone can listen to your podcast or subscribe to it. And if you want to ask your audience to support your work, Anchor makes it easy to collect monthly payments from the people who love your podcast and want to see it grow. You really don't need a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic, the AFC Championship game between Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs versus Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I picked the Cincinnati Bengals. You picked the Kansas City Chiefs, who came out victorious. And
by the way, I picked San Francisco too. So
yes. So we were each 1-1 this week. Travis Kelce had a couple of funny remarks at the end of that game, saying Patrick Mahomes and a number of Chiefs players had a couple of funny remarks. But I want to talk to you before I jump into this. What was your reaction to this incredibly thrilling head-to-head brawl between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow?
It was a great game. I really enjoyed watching it, and I was happy the Chiefs won because I picked them. I picked them 24-20. They came very close to that score. I didn't think it would be that high a scoring game, and it turned out to be not that much. I think the field goal kicker for the Chiefs was gold, right? He hit that last one. That was not really not that short a field goal. He managed to get it, and he got a couple others there, which were very important as well. So I thought Mahomes played well. He made that mistake where he tried to throw the ball and fumbled it, and that led to a score that tied the game up. So that was tough. But he had over 320 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, high percentage completion. He played great, I think. And Kelce, despite being a game time decision based on back spasms, looked really good too. So those guys, they got a great offense. There's no question about it. And they showed it last night, and they played as advertised.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy in this game because I was doing some digging, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. And everyone's saying, "Oh, the NFL's rigged," and the script has been written for Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce to play against one another, first brothers in the Super Bowl or whatever. I'm not big into that. And I'm also not going to blame Joseph, what's his name, Osai, the number 58 of the Bengals, who drew a very idiotic, but I believe he is a rookie. So, learn from experience.
He was crying over on the sidelines afterwards.
Yeah, no,
he hurt himself, too. He looked like he hurt his knee when he did that.
And the first thought that popped into my head after I saw that was, that's the definition of insult to injury.
Yeah, exactly.
That is literally the definition of insult to injury.
Literally.
Yeah, so I'm not going to blame him for, a bad penalty because he's young. And you know what? For instance, that's not really, that's not a stupid call. However, I think the refs and a lot, Robert Griffin III had something to say. DK Metcalf on Twitter had something to say about it. Even Matt Judon had something to say about it, about how bad the officiating was this weekend. And I kind of agree with that. And I have a number of little pieces here that I could show you that it's pretty. I've compiled. I had a lot of work this morning compiling and figure out which clips are blatantly obvious, because these were pretty bad calls. I believe I may have the first one. I do think I'm a little bit more nervous than I was. By the way, I'm just gonna give some context to that video. This is what I said on the last show when talking about I made the picks of the Bengals, but this is what I said on, I believe, what was it, Friday's show. I do think I'm a little bit more nervous than I was last year because the Bengals are getting a little bit cocky. They're calling Arrowhead Burrowhead now. And last year, it was the Chiefs doing the talking. The Bengals came in, took care of business, moved on to the Super Bowl. This year, it's the Bengals talking, and I don't know. Hedging my bets a little bit, I will say that. Just a little bit, because I felt like, the Bengals, first of all, The Chiefs came out here with a vengeance right now. You saw it. At least late in that game, basically throughout the entire game, they looked like they wanted to win more than the Bengals did.
Yeah.
And also, I'll say this. I believe the first 6 dropbacks Joe Burrow had, 3 sacks? That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Chris Jones, I believe, had, 2 of them? 3? He might have had all 3.
Yeah.
But I think it may have been 2 of them. But
the Bengals have won in the past with Burrow getting sacked a lot, right? Last year in the playoffs, he got sacked an enormous number of times, but he managed to win those games.
Yeah, but in the Super Bowl where Aaron Donald shredded him, that entire defense shredded him,
yeah.
It was a very, very close game, and they actually had the opportunity to win. But once again, it was a late game penalty on Wilson, I believe, with the hold call on Cooper Kupp that allowed that touchdown for the Rams to go up. But it's tough. You're down 3 offensive linemen. It was very, very impressive what Joe Burrow did last week. But with Chris Jones and Frank Clark and the rest of that defensive line, it's very, very difficult. And Chris Jones had to have had the game of his life, and he did that. He had 10 pressures, 2 sacks, 3 hits, 5 hurries.
Yeah. Burrow had 2 interceptions.
The first
one of them wasn't his fault.
The first one, no. The first one was horrible. That was he got pressured. He threw it into an obviously covered guy. The second one, I'm also putting on him.
Why?
A 3rd and 3 with 7 minutes left. You throw it into double coverage, and it did get tipped, but T. Higgins was not open. That was a bad throw and a bad read. So I am blaming Joe Burrow for that. But also, I was able to compile this, and hopefully I get it up. This was a little bit of a mysterious thing because I remember last season, I did a little video there where I called a phantom hold on, like I said, Wilson on Cooper Kupp, and I've compiled something very, very interesting when it comes to this game. It was on the punt return that went, I think, 27 yards, something like that set up this entire game-winning drive, and then on that game-winning play that set up Mahomes it was the penalty on Mahomes. There was some
penalty on Mahomes.
Oh, sorry, penalty in favor of the Chiefs against the
Osai.
Yeah, Osai. Yeah. The roughing the what do you call it? Unnecessary roughness, whatever, unsportsmanlike conduct, whatever you classify the push out of bounds. I don't know which one. It may have been unnecessary roughness, but this is what I've compiled as evidence that the Bengals kind of got screwed over late in the game. These are obvious calls that got missed, and I'll break it down right now. Let's do it right now. So this is on the punt return, and hopefully I have everything squared off. So I'm going to break it down. But this is the punt return that goes 27 yards. At the left side of the screen, this is a block in the back, a clear block in the back, and he tries to sell it frame by frame here. 2 hands on the back. That is a block in the back. That is the definition of what a block in the back is. And then he tries to sell it later on. And there's actually another block in the back on this same play, and he tries to sell it at the very end here. The left side of the screen. Here's another block in the back. 2 players have hands on his back already. He gets shoved to the ground. And then the other block in the back's at the top of the screen. There it is again. And I believe I think this is the end of it. Yeah. I also have a couple holds that I don't have video of, but I have a couple pictures of. This is the first one. Trey Henderson is in a chokehold out here at the bottom of the screen there. Sorry for the podcast listeners. YouTube.com/@theharveyhour to see this. Yeah, look at this. Trey Henderson at the bottom of the screen is in a chokehold. That's the definition of a hold. And on that exact same play, a few seconds later, do I have it? Please don't have it up. Let's see if I can get it up right now for us. Let's see. Here we go. That's super. Oh, here we go. Here's the play. At the guy to the right of Trey Hendrickson. He's being dragged to the ground. That's another hold on the exact same play. 2 holds on the exact same play. A block in the back that set up this game-winning drive. The refs had a horrible officiating game. Horrible. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even bringing up the mistake.
There were any of those kinds of calls on the other side of the ball?
No. Where were they? Seriously, where were they?
I mean, you've analyzed.
Oh, and also, I didn't even break down. What the hell was the redo? The do-over?
I don't know what that
What, apparently a referee, the clock was running after an incomplete pass, or he went out of bounds, and the very top judge was coming in. No one heard him. Not a single soul heard him. And they had to convene and say, oh yeah, I ran in and blew a whistle. Okay, let's do a redo. What? So that's a whole different thing. But I believe
then there was a pass interference call.
Yeah, on Eli Apple.
Yeah,
great job he did. But another
I don't
guy.
think that amounted to anything, though, in the end, right?
I think they
Chiefs
still punted away.
Wound up punting.
I do want to talk about.
The Bengals coach was livid about that.
He should have been.
Yeah.
What the hell's a do-over? So I want to talk about a guy who I was roasting, and you heard me talk about him. Mike Hilton, number 21. He got burned. He was out of all the 2 games, the 4 teams. He was the lowest graded player, offense and defense. Lowest graded player this weekend. He got targeted. I have it here. 9 times. 8 catches, 133 yards. A passer rating, not a QBR. QBR is on a scale of 0 to 100. That's an ESPN stat. Passer rating, was it like 0 to 158.3? His passer rating when thrown at him, 155.8.
Yeah.
He was horrible. Horrible. I believe he might have been covering Valdez Scantling.
Anybody else? You would have think they would have taken him out.
You would think. So he played horrible. You had a couple of horrible calls on you. So I'm not saying this game's rigged. I'm not saying there's a script to it. I'm saying the officials had a horrible day. And you know what? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes officials have horrible days. But it just so happens that, these penalties kind of, I guess the lack of penalties kind of cost you the game. Because Joe Burrow didn't play great. He was actually higher rated on PFF than Patrick Mahomes was, which
really?
That's
I
interesting.
Find that hard to believe.
How
can that be?
I'm just going based off
He had
what
2 interceptions.
He did.
He threw for 270 yards. Mahomes threw for 326.
Hey,
I don't understand.
I don't make the rules here.
Yeah,
I don't make the rules here.
The formulas there are beyond me.
I don't make the rules here, but you know what? It just so happens that the Chiefs were able. They made the plays. They fought for it, and like I said, I sort of was hedging my bets at the end of.
They didn't want to lose 4 times in a row.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It's pretty hard to beat a team 4 times in a row.
It's hard to beat them 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
Usually, you can't do that in one season.
Yeah.
So. I think, and the funny thing enough, the reason why I'm putting emphasis on Mike Hilton, he was the one who claimed Burrowhead. He was the first one to say that Arrowhead is Burrowhead now. So you think the Chiefs are motivated to absolutely destroy him? And they did. Lowest graded player.
They had a few things to say after the game.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. Burrowhead.
What did Travis Kelce say? I couldn't hear what he was
Burrowhead
saying.
my ass. It's Mahomes' house now. He also, I forgot what else he said. He said some sort of famous quote or something like that.
Yeah. I wonder how the owner liked him saying that.
I don't think he cares. And then also the mayor before this game was also roasting the Chiefs, and Travis Kelce also took a shot at him as well. So I think what, it just so happens that the Bengals were doing the talking this time. The Chiefs were able to beat them. The Chiefs were talking the last time. The Bengals beat them. And you know what? I even said that. I hedged my bets a little bit because I just felt weird about how confident the Bengals were. And, this Chiefs offense throughout the year was very, very good. I mean, Mahomes was like breaking records. So, just so happens, Joe Burrow, you're down 3 offensive linemen. If the offensive linemen were healthy, you might have been able to slow Chris Jones down a little bit. And he wouldn't have had such a big impact. That's why I said
MVP of that game.
I don't think championship games have MVPs. I think it's just I think
the Super Bowl.
That's an NBA thing that has those MVPs of the series. But I would still put.
I think Mahomes is the MVP of the league this year.
If I had a 1A or 1B for this game, I would put Chris Jones at 1A and Mahomes 1B, because Chris Jones, he was the reason why the Bengals offense, especially early on, could not get going in the least. And then they finally put like a tight end and an extra running back in the backfield to at least slow down a potential pass rush. So it just seemed like, the defense just was not there to play. And I also want to say this. I'm hearing this all day. Mahomes, what a job he did on one leg. I just want to say this. He didn't take any painkillers. He didn't get shot up. He was off the injury report. And he looked good the day after he got hurt.
And he didn't start limping until late in the game.
And that's because I think he just landed on
that last play. He ran without, didn't show that any signs of that when he was running on that last play.
I mean, it seemed like he only had a serious problem. I think maybe because he landed on it too hard, or he twisted weird or something like that on one, like I think he scrambled out real quick on a boot. But I don't want to hear about this one leg thing. He looked absolutely fine.
Generally, a high ankle sprain, you're out for quite a few weeks.
I understand that, but if you're denying treatment, like if you're denying shooting up your ankle before the game, and you're off the injury report.
They said that he was having treatment like 4 or 5 hours a
day.
Yeah,
he kept, throughout this entire week, he was there multiple times a day, making sure his ankle was better. He got taken off the injury report. He looked great all throughout the week. And then all of a sudden in this game, he looks absolutely fine, except for 1 or 2 moments throughout the game. So I don't want to hear about this. He did this on one leg. He was fine. He looked absolutely fine. It did not look like it bothered him whatsoever. So I give credit to the Chiefs. They played. The defense played phenomenally. But the Bengals just didn't show up. They didn't show up.
And the Bengals have to be concerned now because they made it to the Super Bowl and lost last year, and this year they didn't get there. So
they had an opportunity.
They did win 12 in a row to get to the championship game, which was pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They're going to have to go back and take a look and see what they think. I mean, they have a very strong team, but not enough to win the big one yet.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting what they do moving forward now, because the Chiefs can't run the ball, and the Eagles do a great job on defense. I mean, you saw the pass rush against actually a really, really good offensive line for the 49ers.
The Chiefs don't try to run the ball very much.
I mean, they tried to run it with their running backs, 14 times with their running backs, 27 yards.
Good guy. What's that guy's name?
Pacheco.
He's tough.
2.6 yards a carry, though. He didn't really do much. He did a lot.
He had a couple of nice runs.
Yeah, he did. So it's going to be interesting to see what we do for the Super Bowl here, because the 49ers offensive line is better than the Chiefs offensive line. And if that Eagles pass rush was able to disrupt Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson, and then an injured Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey for a play, what are they going to do against Mahomes? Maybe if we're still sticking to this one leg on half a leg, what are they going to do with Mahomes?
Well, I think he'll be more mobile than either of the 49ers quarterbacks were, even with his leg a little bit of a problem.
I could definitely agree with you there. I'm curious to see how the Super Bowl turns out, because we're Patriots fans. We hate both of these teams, or at least we should.
Yeah.
The Eagles beat us in the Super Bowl recently.
I don't like the Eagles more because growing up, before I became a Patriots fan, before they really got going, I was a Giants fan, and I just don't like the Eagles.
You're going to get hate for that. You are going to get hate for that.
I don't like the Eagles, never have.
I hope you know the comments are going to destroy you that you just said that.
I don't care. That's how I feel.
But then you have the Chiefs. You like the so my guess is you're probably going to pick the Chiefs here.
I am going to pick the Chiefs. So I'll give you a little foreshadowing on what I'm going to pick. I'm pretty sure I'm picking the Chiefs unless Mahomes says he can't play.
I'm going to have to dig. I'm going to have to dig deep and see, because I'm not going for what I want. I'm going for what's right.
Yeah.
Because what I would want to is I'd rather the Bengals be in the Super Bowl.
Well, how about Jalen Hurts? Never been in a Super Bowl.
Right.
Only been in a couple of 3 playoff games. One of them he played terrible. This week he didn't play that great. What's he going to be like in the Super Bowl?
That's a great question.
I think one thing in the Super Bowl, it's different, and we'll have a lot of time to talk about the Super Bowl, but there's a lot of downtime in the Super Bowl, right? There's a long halftime. There's tons of commercials. They're standing around, keeping you focused. And I think a team that has the experience being there, this is the 3rd time in 4 years being there, the Chiefs have that.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely say they have that. I think, we're talking, like I said, team comp surrounding them, not only because obviously Mahomes is better than Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate this year. And, he could have won if he didn't get hurt. There was a chance. I'm not saying there was a great chance, but he was up there.
Yeah, well.
And the receivers are better.
He did yesterday.
I completely agree with you there. And, it's going to be whether that offensive line, Lane Johnson still is healing up. Can they slow down Chris Jones and Frank Clark and the rest of that defensive line? That's going to be the big question mark, because if Chris Jones has a game like he had against the Bengals, the Chiefs are blowing them out. Absolutely blowing them out. Because I think they're going to come up with more screen passes, because the pass rush is going to get to them quicker. I don't know. It's going to be a very, very interesting game. But to wrap up the show, we're going to end on Jimmy G. We talk about Jimmy G from time to time, and especially this year because, a lot of controversy. Him, Brock Purdy, him not playing that well. He was seen smiling on the sidelines early in the 3rd quarter when they were down 21-7. Not looking too good. Laughing, I believe, with the owner, John Lynch. He's out of there. Let's be real. Jimmy G's out of there. There's no chance they bring him back.
John Lynch is not the owner, is he?
Or was he? He's the GM. He's the exec. Whoever. John Lynch, yeah. He was on the sideline laughing, having a good time, even though their team was getting destroyed. It's interesting to look at Jimmy G because I believe he knows he's out of there.
Do they control him? I think he only has a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
anyway,
he's done this year.
He can go do whatever he wants.
But they may want to bring him back because Kyle Shanahan was furious this entire game.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
the frustration on the 49ers side was like overwhelming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they couldn't have had enough bad things happen to them.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
So based on what you saw in this game and based on what you've seen over the past couple years with how Jimmy G's played with the 49ers, if Jimmy G was healthy enough to go, because if the 49ers made it, Jimmy G would have been activated and he would have been healthy enough to potentially play. So if Jimmy G was healthy enough to play in this game, we know Brock Purdy was going to be the starter anyway. That's been reported. If Brock Purdy got hurt, Jimmy G would have been the backup for Brock Purdy. If Jimmy G was healthy enough to play, do you think he would have made a difference against this Eagles team, potentially to win the game or at least make it at least more respectable?
Well, as long as he didn't get hurt. You know, if he tore his ulnar nerve or whatever that was that Purdy hurt, then he wouldn't have been able to play. But if he'd stayed healthy the whole game, sure, I think there would have been a lot closer game. Whether they would have won it or not, I'm not sure.
So you think if Jimmy G was healthy, that would have made a difference?
I do. Yeah. He's a good quarterback. There's no doubt about it.
Hey, I've been arguing with
that. Plus, he has more experience in the playoffs. He's been in a Super Bowl.
True.
He's a winning quarterback. I think he would have. If Brock Purdy never would have been in there if Jimmy G hadn't gotten hurt and broken his foot. Right?
Absolutely.
Brock Purdy had a great. He won 8 games in a row. He lost yesterday, but he lost. He can say I lost because I got hurt. You know. So I think that if Jimmy G hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been the quarterback all the way through there, and I think it would have been a much more competitive game. Whether the 49ers would have won or not, I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, they didn't get Debo very many touches.
No.
And
not really.
And McCaffrey, they could have utilized him a little better too, but I think that would have happened more if Jimmy G had been in there.
I'm trying to look up did Debo even make an impact? Because I know he had 4 targets for 3 catches for 33 yards, and then I think he also ran.
Yeah, they were running him a little bit near the end.
He ran it 6 times for -9 yards.
Yeah.
So, not great at all. But to answer the question, could Jimmy G have made a difference? Who says Jimmy G wouldn't have gotten hurt? I mean, based on the way Jimmy G's history was, and especially in this game, everyone was getting hurt. So my guess would be Jimmy G would have probably ended up hurt as well. So. But like I said, if he was healthy, if Jimmy G came in healthy and he was able to actually play through this game, with the way Jalen Hurts was playing, not great, I think, honestly, they would have had a shot to beat him. I think honestly, I would have been more nervous with Jimmy G in the backfield than I would Brock Purdy against this team. Because
Me too, because he's got more experience.
Not only that, Brock Purdy throughout this entire playoffs was very jittery. He looked like he had a lot of pressure on him.
Well, he was playing in a different league, the playoff league. It's tougher. The teams are tougher to beat, and he was challenged more. He did well to win the game he won.
Right.
He won 2 games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got nothing to hang his head about. I think he'll get healed up and be back in there next year.
You think he's going to start? I think
there's a good chance of it. Why wouldn't he?
I mean, what are they going to do with Trey Lance?
Maybe he'll be the backup, or maybe they'll compete. They each compete for the starting job.
I mean, I think that's a given, but, what if they say, bro, Brock Purdy did
Trey
this?
Trey Lance had a bad injury, so they may bring him along slow, after he gets healed up.
Could be.
We'll see.
But,
maybe they'll trade him. I don't know.
I mean, just think about, how quick we saw Brock. And this is the thing where we're talking about sample size here. Brock Purdy's sample size, everyone was, oh my God, is he the next Kurt Warner? Is he the next Tom Brady? We saw Trey Lance's small sample size. He didn't look great. No. I think he has barely above 50% completion percentage.
No, he never played that much football.
I know, but we're talking about Brock Purdy played for Iowa State. That isn't a big school. You don't play that many big games.
No, but he did play all 4 years. I mean, Trey Lance, did he stop playing football when he was a sophomore or something?
I think he had 1.5 full years of football at North Dakota State University.
Yeah, so not even his sophomore year, his junior year.
Because he was off for COVID, and I think he came in for 1 more year after that, so it might have been 2 years. But, yeah, Brock Purdy came in here, first game, 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards passed. I think he might have actually had over 200 yards passing. We saw 1 game, and we thought, this guy could play. Trey Lance comes in. We like his mobility. he doesn't look great. And especially this season. This season, we have to remember, Jimmy G lost the job. They basically told Jimmy G, thanks, we'll see you later.
I don't think he lost it as much as they took it away from him.
Well, I mean,
they didn't know what Trey Lance was going to do. They were making a bet on him. It's not like Trey Lance beat him out.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. So, and then, yeah, Trey Lance comes in.
Plus, he wasn't ready to play right at the beginning, right? I mean, he
Jimmy
was
G
still
or Trey
recovering.
Lance?
Jimmy G at the beginning of the season.
Yes.
He was still recovering from his injury in the prior year.
They didn't allow him to practice with the team until, I think, week 3. He didn't get a full playbook until week 3 when he was put in there as the starter. So, still, though, when we saw Trey Lance, the small sample size that we did see compared to the small sample size we found from Brock Purdy early on, 1 or 2 games, even 3 games, I think that's how many Trey Lance has played. We are seeing 2 completely different reactions from the media and 49ers fans when it compares to Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. We look at Trey Lance and we're like, I don't know, this guy does not look great. I mean, that even was what coming out of the draft was. He needs a lot of refinement. He doesn't have a lot of football experience. He probably has the highest ceiling, but he has the lowest floor so far because of how unrefined his game is. He has the least amount of experience. Brock Purdy, like you said, he played a lot in college. He comes in, and you know what? He plays very well. So I think Brock Purdy right now has the starting job, and Trey Lance needs to take it. I don't think there's going to be much of a competition.
No, I agree with that.
Because the way Brock Purdy looked this year was impressive, but you also have to put context around it. A phenomenal team, the same team Trey Lance had, and look at the difference there. Look at the comparison between how Trey Lance played in the first 2 games. The first one was in a monsoon, and he lost to Justin Fields. And the second game, I believe he got hurt in that game.
Last year the 49ers lost in the NFC Championship game, and
they did?
And Garoppolo was the quarterback. So,
and they were leading heading into the fourth quarter last year as well. So they did have a chance to actually, go to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G as a starting quarterback. If it wasn't for I still think it's Tarrant. I gotta look back at that game who hit him right in like the face. A potential interception, probably the game sealing interception. He dropped it. They drove down, scored, wasn't able to win the game. So it was very, very unfortunate. But I think that does wrap it up for us here at the Harvey Hour. It's Monday evening. We will see you on Friday for another episode of the Harvey Hour here on YouTube. Clips will be uploaded tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week. Pro Bowl next week.
A joke.
It's no longer the Pro Bowl. It's the Pro Bowl games and the skill competition.
They're gonna play badminton. They're playing badminton, right? They have a competition.
I think they're also playing dodgeball too.
Yeah.
But then we get to see Eli and Peyton finish out they have like that flag football that they're doing. I think at the culmination of everything. I believe so. I think it's like a 40-yard field though.
Yeah. So
we got that. We also have the special topic we'll be doing sometime next week that you came up with back in like December. But yeah, I think that wraps it up. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the Harvey Hour. We will catch you guys Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Hi, Grandpa.
Bye.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
Podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.